Hello and welcome to episode number 66 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, sewing, spinning, crochet, weaving, basically all the fiber crafts that I feel like. And this week there have been a few, or actually the past few weeks, because I skipped a few episodes and I don't know if you've seen my last podcast episode, which is 3 weeks ago already. It's been a while. If you haven't, I would recommend you watch that one first. And I'll see you in a bit. If you've already seen it or you don't mind a bit of a spoiler this week, welcome. So thank you so much for joining me. The past 2 weeks I have been suffering from pretty bad morning sickness, which is completely pregnancy related, so that's why I skipped a few episodes, because I just basically didn't feel like anything, and recording and editing a podcast definitely wasn't on my list of things that I wanted to do. So there you go, I didn't. But I'm back and I'm feeling a lot better now. I feel like now I'm 15 weeks pregnant and a little bit into the second trimester, and I'm starting to feel like the morning sickness is getting slightly better. I'm not 100% there yet, but it's definitely better than it's been 2 weeks ago and better than it's been last week. So I hope this upward trend is going to continue. Anyway, you're not here to hear me babble about pregnancy symptoms, I guess, but let's get right into the regular content of a podcast episode, and let's start with what I'm wearing today. And you will not have seen me in this outfit before unless you know me in real life, in which case you may have seen me on Thursday evening wearing this dress, but this is my Agnes top, Agnes dress, Agnes maternity dress actually. So with the pregnancy, obviously my body is changing, and I needed some clothes that accommodates for my expanding belly. And this time it's not just because I'm getting fat, although I feel like I'm getting more fat than I should based on pregnancy, but still my belly is expanding rapidly. I've heard comments saying that people had a belly like mine around their due date. And I'm only 15 weeks in. I still have 25 weeks to go until our little baby will be born, or until it's expected. But here's my excuse. It may be a bad one, but I'm pretty small, so like lengthwise there's not that much space in my belly, so it needs to expand forward faster. Or at least I hope that's somewhat of an explanation. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's not really much that I can change about that. I mean, I could possibly watch my diet, but then I feel like I'm always eating, because otherwise I get nauseous and whatever. And there's this whole list of things that you should eat in a day, because you need all these vitamins and everything, and I don't know. I feel like if I eat all of those things, then I will expand a lot more. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about this dress. So I have ordered the fabric for this dress a while ago. This is a pattern by Tilly and the Buttons, and it looks very similar to most of my tops, because I have made quite a few Agnes tops in the past, although those were regular fit kind of Agnes tops. And this one has some additional length for your expanding belly during pregnancy, or if you're apple shaped, then maybe that will be a nice pattern too. Although I feel like if you're a bit apple shaped, you probably wouldn't go looking for maternity patterns. Anyway, it kind of works, I guess. I do have a picture, because my boyfriend just had a little photo shoot with me to show the full length of this dress, because standing up and showing things in front of the camera is always a bit tricky. Then I can be babbling and won't know what I'm showing. But yeah, my belly is definitely expanding, and the way this pattern works is, first of all, usually in a pattern for me there's some kind of waist shaping. So for the hips, it's the pattern piece is quite wide, and then it goes in a bit for the waist, and then it expands a bit to make room for your front side as a woman. And this dress is shaped more like goes to your hip width right away below your breast section. Yeah, and it works quite well. And apart from that, there's also extra length in the front side. So there are some gathers in the side seam. So the back piece is just a straight piece, and the front piece has this gather in it. So there's extra space around your belly, so extra fabric to stretch in always. And this is a tricot fabric. I believe that's jersey in English. So that means it's knit fabric, so it has stretch, and we knitters all know that knitted fabrics have some stretch to it in both widthwise and lengthwise direction, so that's going to accommodate for even more belly, because trust me, this baby is going to grow a lot. Anyway, so I'm really happy with this dress. I'm not 100% sure what happened with the shoulders, because for some reason the shoulder doesn't seem to fit as nice as it does with my usual Agnes tops, and I'm not really sure why that happened. It might be because I tried to give my arms somewhat more space and didn't quite follow the instructions for the seam allowances. So I have some extra space in the sleeve, but I'm not really sure if that makes this creep up a bit more. I'm not sure. Or maybe I just cut the fabric too small. I'm not really 100% sure. Or maybe I should just pull it down a little bit more. But because there's so much extra fabric on my belly, I feel like the fabric over my breast and upper chest area gets pushed up a little, because there's so much fabric that usually would pull it down a bit, and now it just makes it go up or something. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, you need to look into that, because I'm planning to make some more of these dresses. Now, this dress pattern from Tilly and the Buttons only comes as a PDF pattern, so you can only download the pattern. But I found a print shop in Eindhoven, which is my hometown in the Netherlands, and they print like the architecture, building type poster formats and things, and they also can print sewing patterns. Basically just your black and white line type things on large size paper. So that was a lifesaver, because I did in the past make a pair of chino pants for my boyfriend, and I had to tape all the pieces together on A4 paper. I think that's slightly larger than US letter paper. I'm not really 100% sure, but the sizes are roughly the same, so it just means that you have a lot of pieces that you have to tape together, and with every piece you have this chance of adding some extra length or skewing your pattern slightly, and just taping it together made me so upset about what errors I might introduce into the pattern simply by not taping it together perfectly. So I was really happy to just go somewhere and have this printed, so that I can just work from an A0 paper, and then I will just draw the pattern pieces on some pattern paper, so I don't cut the A0 paper, which I could just cut out on the large pieces of paper, but I don't like doing that because it's quite expensive, and I do have pattern paper, so I can just copy it. And maybe if I get gain more weight than I should during this pregnancy, I may need to make this dress a size larger. So who knows? That it would be nice if I don't have to go to the print shop again and have it printed. Anyway, well, I do think there are possibilities to have it sent to your home, but still, it's not cheap. So yeah, I'm pretty happy that I did. Anyway. And now I have just talked about this one project that I've been working on. So I worked on it together with 2 friends on Monday, and I did modify this pattern slightly because the pattern actually accommodates for like a full 9-month pregnant belly, which I obviously don't have yet, although some people at 9 months will have a similar belly to mine currently. But yeah. We decided to take out 6 centimeters, I believe, of length, so that is slightly over 2 inches of length. So the front side of the dress had some, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 inches extra length. I don't know the numbers here. I really don't know. I'm just guessing. But I did want some extra room for my belly, but I didn't want that much extra room for my belly because already now it's hard to wear skirts and pants for me, whereas most of my tops, they still kind of fit, especially if they're jersey fabric. They just stretch a little wider than they usually have to. So but I just wanted to be able to wear it right away and not have to wait until I hopefully grow into this dress one day. But still, it has quite a lot of room to grow. So I shortened it slightly, and I believe if I'm going to make it again in the future, then if it's going to be in the near future, then I will probably make it the same size. But towards the end of my pregnancy, I will probably need more extra space on the front, so I will probably leave in those 6 centimeters or maybe even add some extra depending on how fast things grow. Anyway, it's weird to have this kind of changing body. I mean, my body shape has changed over the years quite a bit because I've been losing weight and gaining weight and losing it again and gaining it again, but that's always been a quite slow progress and changes your body like overall. So if you lose weight, in some places you obviously lose weight faster than in others, but still generally when you lose weight, everything gets a little bit smaller, and some things get smaller faster than other places, but now it's basically just my front side that is expanding at an incredible rate. Anyway, that's definitely enough about this one project. So let's talk a little bit about what else I've been doing this week. So this week I have been spinning again, and I started working again on the dog hair project. And the reason that I started working on this again is the weather. It has cooled down significantly. So last week it was around 30 degrees Fahrenheit. No, maybe a bit cooler, but in the daytime it was definitely too hot to sit on my balcony, which is facing south, with my spinning wheel. And this dog hair is, now holding it here, it doesn't smell very strong, but when you're working with it and there's a little bit of the fat on the hairs that's still on there, the smell gets a little bit more intense, and I didn't want to work with it inside, but that means that it needs to be cool enough for me to work on it outside. And this week the weather has been around 20 degrees, on and off some rain or clouds, so it's been very nice to sit outside and work a bit on my spinning wheel. And I have spun some more, and I will still need to spin a lot more before I can start flying, but I'm getting there, so I'm quite happy about that. And I also went to my spinning group where I would also have liked to work on the dog hair project, but the husband of the host is allergic to dog hair, so I decided to bring a sheep hair project, which seemed a little nicer, because, well, we don't want people to have bad reactions to our hobbies, I guess. So here is the Shetland fiber that I'm spinning. This is hand dyed by Amy from the Stranded Dye Works shop. She also has a podcast, by the way, which I believe is called the Stranded Podcast, but my brain is not always with me, especially during pregnancy. Oh my god, I forget so many things, and I feel like usually my brain is quite on top of things, but these days I don't know where it has gone, but it's not always in line with what I want it to remember or do or say. Anyway, so here is the progress that I have made, and yeah, I'm quite happy with it. This is the second bobbin, and once this bobbin is full I can start plying it. I'm going to make it a 2-ply, and hopefully it's going to be enough to make me some kind of vest, but if it turns out to be short on yardage, I now have a very special person that I could knit things for too, in smaller sizes. So that's always a backup option. So then there is the knitting that I've been doing, and I have been working on a project that's been on the needles for some time, and I've been working on this cardigan that I'm knitting for my mom, and this way it doesn't really look much like a cardigan maybe, but it's knit in an interesting direction. So I started here on the bottom band on the front side, and I knit in this piece of color work, and I decreased for the armhole. I think I was just past the color work, and right after the color work I started decreasing for the armhole, and I worked all the way through the armhole and back up again, and I was quite frustrated with this. So this yarn is Kauni Effect yarn, or that is the red one. The black one is something 8/2 solids or something like that. I'm not 100% sure what the name is of the yarn, but it's Kauni, and it's fingering weight rustic wool. And it typically has this very nice soft gradient going through it. But I came across one row in this cardigan, and suddenly there were 2 knots, and with one of the knots there was a quite significant change in color. So I had to wind off all of this yarn to get back to the point where I wanted to be. So it had skipped a part of the color repeat, so I had to throw away most of the next color repeat as well to get back to the point where it would smoothly transition in color. And that makes me quite sad, because this is quite a lot of yarn that I will not be able to use, at least not in this part of the cardigan. So maybe it will come in handy when I'm knitting the sleeves or something, but I just don't know that yet. And well, it's just a bit disappointing that all of that yarn just had to be wound away, because it's such a long and slow color gradient. Anyway, I do think that the result is quite nice. So what I've been working on is basically this section without color work. Most of I think the entire bodice piece will be without color work for now, and there will be more color work on the sleeves. So I still have quite a way to go, because I still need to knit most of the back piece and then the left front side of this cardigan. but it's coming along nicely. And I do think that in the past I've mentioned that this pattern was also by Kauni, but it's available for free on their website. It works amazing with Kauni yarns because they have this snow gradient, and that's basically what these patterns are meant to accentuate, I guess. But it's just a very nice pattern in general, and they have these patterns available in several languages on their websites, I believe. And this is model 16, I think. Yeah, so that's not all that I've been knitting. I have been knitting a bit more. So around the time that I announced that I was pregnant, I was sitting at my local knit group, and a friend of mine was knitting some socks for, I believe, for her son. Not really sure. Her son is adult by now, and she had just finished a pair of socks, and she gave me the scraps of her sock yarn to knit a pair of baby socks out of. So this is just an improvised pair of socks. They are with a 2x2 rib over the top of the sock and on the leg. So I believe this should fit at some point. And what you will maybe not be able to see, but below the ribbing on the leg there is also this line of holes, so I can put a bit of ribbon through this sock so that I can tighten it slightly around the ankles of our little baby, and hopefully we won't lose that many socks that way. But I hear from everyone that babies are extremely good at losing socks, so that's why I have not just knit one pair of socks. The next pair of socks that I knit were these ones, and this is knit from a Dutch pattern which is called the Pauwenveer pattern, which would translate to peacock feather pattern. And I'm pretty sure that the designer has a name, but I can't for the life of me remember what the name is, so I will put it in the down bar if I remember to look it up while editing. I'm not sure if the pattern is available in other languages as well, but I do know that I also have some Dutch viewers, so they might be interested in this. Anyway, so this is actually, I think, the first pair of baby socks that I ever knit from a pattern. That means this pattern is the first pattern that I ever knit. I've knit plenty of baby socks in the past, but I think around 8 years ago, a friend of mine announced her pregnancy, and I wanted to knit her some baby socks, and I had already knit a pair just out of my head from what I remember that my mom knit baby socks like when I was younger, and she would knit most of the baby socks for baby dolls actually, so they were even a bit smaller than that, but I wanted to take my baby sock knitting to a new level back then. I definitely wasn't a knitter with a capital K back then, but I decided to follow a pattern, and I came up with I found this pattern, and I liked it, so I decided to make it again. And this pattern also has a line of holes in it for a ribbon, which is maybe even less visible on this pair of socks, because this pair is quite holy, because there's a little bit of lace going on. And I was showing these socks, and people immediately said like, oh, she's probably going to have a girl, and I was like, it's way too early even to be able to know this. But I don't know, and I don't want to know until the baby is born. Then I would like to know whether it's a boy or a girl. Anyway, so I forgot to mention, this yarn is yarn that I got in a prize package last year when I entered a knit along for Lilypond yarns, and I can't remember exactly what the knit along was like. I believe it may have been something like a one skein along, so for smaller projects, and I won a set of mini skeins, and well, it arrived around a time, or by the time I decided what it was going to be, I was pregnant. Unfortunately, I miscarried that time, but in my head this yarn was reserved for knitting baby socks, so I did, and now that I finally knew for sure that well, you never know for sure obviously, but now that I felt more certain that this pregnancy was actually going to result in a living baby. So yeah, here is the first or the second pair of baby socks that I've knit, and as I mentioned, this pair of or this yarn came from a set of mini skeins, so this pair of socks is also knit from the same set, so they were 20 gram minis, and I'm using about 15 grams per sock. So this time I kind of modified the same pattern, or actually I followed kind of the same instructions for the size for the leg, but I made a tiny pair of blueberry waffle socks, and this pair is definitely a bit more blue, although like the other pair this has some pink in it as well, so they are both pink and blue, but apparently this is more masculine, pink and blue. No, I feel like babies can wear whatever. Anyway, so then there is another, I think this is the next pair. Still Lilypond yarns. I don't know if these colorways have names. If they do, I don't know them. This is a miniature version of the Biscuit Socks that I knit for my boyfriend a while ago. I knit them as a test knit for Lorraine. I believe it's Lorraine Ashley, but I'm not 100% sure. Lorraine from the LNS Crafts podcast, she put out a sock pattern a while ago and a hat pattern as well. My neighbors have started drilling holes in the walls again. Yay. So I modified the pattern slightly and made it a lot smaller so that it will fit a baby. And I believe these socks are quite a bit larger than the other socks, but it's been fun to knit these socks again in in a very tiny version. And yeah, this is I would say mostly blue, but it's kind of greenish color with blue and yellow specks, so it gives a bit of greenish glow. I'm not really sure if it's green or whatever. Anyway, doesn't matter what the color is, I like it. So that's what matters, I guess. And then I've knit another pair of baby socks in a color that seems to match quite well with the last pair of socks, and this is a tiny version of the blueberry waffle socks, and I'm not really sure, but I believe that this pair, no, it was, yeah, this pair I tried to knit a German short row, whereas I usually use a wrap and turn short row, and I believe this is my wrap and turn short row. I must say I do prefer my wrap and turn short row over German short rows. Might be that I just didn't do them correctly, and I believe the German short rows were part of another heel type, the boomerang heel maybe. I'm not really sure, but I was trying some new heel types. So I also made a pair of tiny Hermione's everyday socks, because it was just a little bit of fun to, you know, just vary a little bit with the textures of these socks. And obviously I still need to weave in the ends on this pair. And then the last pair of socks from the same set of mini skeins is, I think, the color that stands out the most. It's this green and yellow color, and these socks I try to knit with a little fleagle heel, but I'm not really sure if this is a proper size for a baby, because I feel like the instep is way too high and I don't really like what this looks like. So I'm not really sure if this is going to stay a sock in this shape, or if I'm going to try and knit a smaller fleagle heel or a different heel altogether. I'm not 100% convinced that this is going to fit our baby at any point. But I do love the colors, so yeah. So I've knit 6 pairs of baby socks, and you guys, you don't want to know how many comments you get on what type of material you work with when you're working for a baby, because you can't knit with wool because your baby might be allergic to wool and it's going to be too hot or it's going to be too cold, or so many opinions. And I feel like this is just 6 pairs of socks, you know. 1 pair of socks, maybe 1 evening's worth of work. It's not that much for me. So you know, if my baby doesn't like them, or if my baby loses them, or if they get lost in the washing even before the baby is born, I don't know, things might happen, then it's okay. Even if my baby gets born with bigger feet than will fit the smallest pairs, then I won't use them. Boo-hoo. Not the end of the world. Anyway, it's nice that people try to help you, but sometimes they come with so many opinions, and also opinions that conflict with each other. So some person might tell you, oh, you shouldn't knit with wool for a baby, and the other person tells you, oh, but you have to knit with wool because otherwise it's not going to be warm enough. So what do? You just follow what you think is best. So I started to knit a blanket as well. It seems like there's 2 pieces of yarn coming from this blanket. That's not true. It's just one end, but I have a long tail from where I was finished with the first skein. And I'm knitting this out of Nl Cotton 8. And it has a little bit of a diamond texture pattern with tiny cables and a bit of moss stitch and a bit of stockinette, and I thought that was cute. And this pattern actually comes from a booklet called Doekjes breien, so it's a Dutch book. I'm not sure if it's translated or if it was originally Dutch, but it's actually meant for like making dish towels or small towels, like your guest towels for in the toilet. Anyway, I just decided to scale it up a little, so those pieces of cloth are supposed to be like 25 by 25 centimeters, and I wanted something that is 75 by 100 centimeters, so I need to think about this a little, but I think that's around 10 by 10 inches that they were supposed to be, and I want them to be 30 by 40 inches to become a blanket. So I have just multiplied the pattern, and I had to do a little bit of math to make it work out with the pattern, but yeah, and it's going quite nicely, smooth sailing. The cables, they definitely do slow me down in knitting, but it's okay because I like what it looks like. I'm knitting this on my chow glue needles, and I don't have that many long cables for my chow glue needles, especially not for the sock sized set. So I have a cable connector somewhere in here already, so these are actually 2 like sock length cables that are connected to each other, but still it's not quite the length that I would need to knit a blanket, so it's all scrunched up on a needle. But I feel like because there is some length to to the piece that I've knit so far, that you can kind of see or that you can see the pattern quite nicely, and I believe that you will all be able to envision what it will look like if it's a little wider. So yeah. Anyway, I just finished the first skein, and I do have 10 skeins of this, and I measured it and it was over 10 centimeters, so I believe I'm good in terms of the amount of yarn that I have for knitting this blanket. And yeah, it's a fun project, and it's very nice that a blanket can be this small. Yeah, I feel like most of the time when you're knitting a blanket, you're automatically working on a very large project, but yeah, this will stay small for quite a while. It will never be bigger than like garment size, so that's nice. So I believe that's everything that I've had to share with you this week, and yeah, it really means a lot that you take some time and check out this podcast. So yeah, thank you for joining me. It really means a lot, and I'm sorry if I babble quite incoherently, but yeah, my brain is just not always with me, so that will be reflected on the podcast, and this is going to be a lot of fun in editing. Anyway, yeah, I think that's all, and I hope next week that I will be able to be here again. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to try. So I hope that you guys all have a lovely week, or have a lovely few weeks if I don't happen to be able to be there next week. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye!